Good? All right. I'm reconvening the regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting for July 12, 2018. And we will begin with a Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask Martha to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'm going to ask that everyone remain standing, please, for a moment of silence honoring Teresa Blackmere, former board trustee. Thank you. I have the following statement to make on behalf of the board. The entire Washington Unified School District community are deeply saddened on the passing of one of our greatest ambassadors and community leaders, Teresa Blackmere. Teresa was not simply a former employee and Board of Education trustee. She was a powerful advocate for our children and a true pillar in our community. She worked in Washington Unified between 1973 and 2008, and then served as a board trustee between 2008 and 2012. Her positive presence has had a significant impact in the lives of countless individuals and will be felt by generations to come. Teresa's legacy will surely live on in the hearts of those who knew her best, but also in the continued success of the children we serve. Our thoughts and hearts are with her family and all the former colleagues, friends, and families connected to Teresa. We'll begin with roll call. Sarah Kirby-Gonzalez.
Here.
Kobe Pizzotti. Here. Jackie Wong.
Present.
And I am present. We'll move on to announcement of action taken in closed session. E1, Government Code Section 54957, Public Employee Discipline, Dismissal, Release. Information received. E2, Government Code 54956.9, D2, Conference with Legal Counsel, Potential Litigation. Information received and direction given. We'll now move to item J, approval of the agenda.
Board President, I would like to pull P4 to action.
Okay, very good.
And I would like to table R1 permanently. It was a question that I had at one of our last board meetings that I got answered, so there's no reason to go over it again.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, may I get a motion?
I move. Oh.
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Agenda unanimously passed. We are now at communications and celebrations, and there are no school celebrations this evening. We're moving on to L, association reports. WSTA report, Don Stauffer.
Good evening. Hope everybody is surviving this summer well. Thank you for that very nice statement on behalf of Teresa Blackmere. I worked with her at the high school and also as a board member, and I do miss her. And so here we are again, one more year. Tomorrow is the second day of the new educator orientation. I'm hoping you guys can make it. WSTA will be having its presentation followed by lunch. Lunch is going to be provided by Chando's Tacos, so there is no excuse for missing this. And on Monday, we'll be having our welcome back meeting, and I'm hoping that you can stop by for that as well and sit down and have breakfast with us on Monday morning. Looking forward to that. I've been thinking about appropriate goals for this upcoming year. And the biggest thing in my mind is also the biggest change to our contract, and that has to do with the professional learning time on our Wednesday afternoons. 2/3 of those days are going to be teacher-led, and I suspect that all of us are going to be feeling our way through this during the year, and I know it's going to be important on our end to make sure we collaborate closely with Ed Services and site administration to make sure that this new thing that we've put into place in this district is all it can be. And again, our main goal here is to improve student learning and outcomes in our classrooms. Another thing I've been thinking about is goes around our ongoing efforts to reduce suspensions and improve student behavior. This year, I think a good goal would be to make sure that our classroom teachers, our site administrators, and our district administration are all on the same page. I've definitely felt, and I don't think I'm alone, that each of these three groups have had different agendas, different goals, different rules, and as a result, I think a lot of kids are falling through the cracks, and I really want to work on that this year, and I think we can. And a third goal is something closer and dear to my heart, is that finally make some progress and improve our evaluation system. I know it's been kind of on our agenda for a while, and I think we really have to make it happen this year. And again, our goal is to move to a growth-based model as opposed to our current deficit, what I consider to be a deficit model. And I think a growth-based model will work very well with our new professional learning culture. And with that, thank you and hope to see you tomorrow. And that includes admin if you want to come by for some Chando's tacos. You guys too, and I didn't mean just to point to them.
Dawn, can I ask a quick question? What time would you like us to be there?
Okay, so our time is going to be from 11:30 to 1, and I suspect as soon as the tacos show up, we'll probably break for the tacos. Thank you.
11:30? Okay. Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone here for the CSEA report? Okay, no, thank you. Okay, we will now move on to, right, I was going to read this first. Well, thank you. We will now move on to public comments. At this time, members of the public may address the board on topics that are under the jurisdiction of the board and are not on the agenda, although the board by law may not take action at this meeting. The board may limit the total time for public input on any topic to 20 minutes unless it chooses to waive the item limit for a particular item. Individual speakers may be limited to 3 minutes to comment on any topic. Public comments consisting of individual charges, complaints, or derogatory remarks about any district employee are requested to be submitted in writing to the administration in accordance with the district's complaint procedure. We do recognize that for a lot of people, commenting before the board and the audience and the people watching at home on television is a nerve-wracking experience. So to try to make that as easy as possible, we do ask that there not be any applause or booing or catcalling or other demonstrations to maintain a civil discourse here in the chambers. The board respects the rights of members of the public to speak to us regarding matters on the agenda and other matters within the jurisdiction of the board. However, it is important for members of the public to recognize that comments regarding students other than the speaker's own children made during a public board meeting may be legally actionable as a violation of student privacy. Both state and federal law prohibit the board and others from discussing confidential student information in open session. To this end, be advised that if you reference a student's name other than your own student, you will be out of order and your comments may not be protected by the privileges that protect public speech. You could be found liable for such comments in legal proceedings. Furthermore, it is important for the public to understand that negative or derogatory comments made against district employees or others, even those made in public board meetings, may be actionable civil defamation. As such, the board reminds the public that the district has existing board policy that allows the public to lodge a complaint against a district employee. This policy provides a comprehensive procedure for reviewing and responding to public complaints. This process provides a more thorough opportunity to be heard than is allowed under the open meeting law that governs this meeting. And we do have one public comment. Martha Hanson.
Good evening. This will be pretty brief, but in my advocacy work for students with disabilities, I get to attend a lot of really fun events, some not so fun. And this past Friday, I had the opportunity to attend it's a long description, so I have to read it, the Mind Summer Institute on Neurodevelopmental Disorders. It was amazing. I got to run into a lot of my friends in the advocacy world, the education world. And my final breakout of the day was, it's titled All Means All, Equity and Access for All Students Through the MTSS Framework. I have to say there was probably I'm guessing maybe 75 on up people, mostly parents, but a lot of teachers in that training. And I was the only one that was from a district who was already working on this. And so I know sometimes my wording isn't so kind, but tonight I am here simply to say thank you for that, because not only was I the only one in that room from a district that was already implementing this, I got to tell you, there were a lot of people standing up not even knowing what it was. And they handed out this amazing little, handout on what MTSS was. But I was fortunate enough to already know. So I just wanted to tell you guys thank you. And for the MTSS, Miss Nicole Latimer, I know her as Miss Latimer, hopefully she'll see the playback of this because she is doing an absolute amazing job. So thank you for that.
Thank you. We will now move to information discussion items. N1, Citizens Bond Oversight Committee Member Recruitment. Chris Mount Benitez, Business Services.
The incredible raising platform. Good evening, trustees and community members and colleagues. This is just an informational item to let you know that we are actively trying to recruit to fill the vacancies on our CBOC, or our Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. This committee is statutorily required for any district that has an active bond measure, and of course, we still have active measure under Measure V. And the committee meets 3 to 4 times a year to oversee how we've been spending the money and to ask any questions, as well as tour work that's already been done through the bond measure. Since we've been advertising it, we've already had 3 inquiries, and as we get applications, we will be bringing them to the board for approval, because you do have to vote to appoint people once they've applied. So we look forward to that, and we ask you for your outreach and communication as you interact with the community.
Thank you. Any questions, comments?
I have one question. I know it looked like legally we are meeting our obligation in terms of having everybody on that committee right now, in terms of all the categories of community and parent. Is there an area in particular it might be needed as we reach out? That some people in the community have been asking about that and how that might be weighed as members are added.
We currently have, of the members, a number of them have become inactive for various reasons. And so at this point, although we meet the legal requirement, we have about half the seats open. So it's a pretty broad spread of our needs. Parents from different portions of the community, folks that represent different age groups or special needs of the community are all categories that we're looking for right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, we are now moving on.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Chris? For our parents who speak another language, are they actually translated? Out of curiosity.
They have not been in the past. However, we could provide translation services for those that we have in the district. So currently for Spanish or Russian.
Okay, so if there are parents who want to live.
Yep,
Okay.
we could certainly make it accessible verbally, and printed materials we can translate as well.
Perfect, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, we are moving on to public hearing, and there is no public hearing this evening. Okay, we will now move on to our consent agenda. Are there any changes to the consent agenda? I believe, Sarah, you did P4. Okay, and we will be, of course,
So I move to adopt the agenda with the consent agenda with P4 removed.
thank you. May I get a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously approved. We will move on now to P1, recognition and acceptance of donations. Oh, I'm sorry.
Q.
Yeah, Q. I'm sorry. Thank you, Jackie.
Q1.
We will now move on to action items.
Chris, you're back up.
And approval of the 19 Washington Unified School District 45-day revised budget. Chris Mountbenites, Chief Business Official.
Thank you again, trustees and colleagues and community. I'd like to actually start by inviting a colleague up who might be a little embarrassed, but I told her I wanted her here tonight because I actually would like to introduce her. This is Kylie Lane, for those of you that don't know. Kylie heads our Business Services unit as our Director of Finance. Is that your official title?
Fiscal service.
Director of Fiscal Services. I wanted Kylie to be here tonight and for folks to start to become more familiar with her face and her talent. Kylie is a pro. And I've already recognized that talent, and she has been leading the district financially for some time. She also has specialization in special education funding and a lot of our reporting, and she heads audit, finance, fiscal reporting, payroll, procurement, as well as all of our reconciliation for the entire district with herself and 6 other people. So I just wanted to point that out, and I asked Kylie to be here this evening. We worked on the 45-day revise together in a slightly different format, and her knowledge and resources just really important for when we have these discussions in the event that the board has any questions about the details. So anything further you'd like to?
Oh, thank you.
No, I've embarrassed you enough. That's great. But I appreciate you coming this evening.
Thank you.
Great. So Kylie will stay up with me, and we'll answer any questions as we go through this. I would just like to remind everybody that the 45-day revise is, of course, our opportunity to revise what we presented during the hearing and adopted in June of each year. And the reason that that opportunity exists is, of course, the budget is adopted by the state after the district adopts its budget. And so the 45-day revise is an opportunity to adjust any of the figures once the actual legislation has passed to fund school districts for the year. And we aren't required to do it unless there's a material change to our budget. And technically, this year's change is not material, but there were some clarifications and some changes that we felt that the board very much needed to be aware of. So we're going to change up the presentation a little bit. There is an additional handout that we provided. It's available to the community, and we put it in front of everybody. It's the black and white copy. If it's not obvious what this is a multi-year projection. During all of our budget presentations, we always present the current year and at least 2 years out. Sometimes you'll see variations of this. People will present the year before or maybe 3 years out, depending upon how much information the board is used to receiving. The reason I'm pointing this out is this is the standard format that I've developed that helps people sort of understand the overall fiscal health of a district. And this is always the most important slide in any budget presentation that we do because it will always remain the same and it allows you to quickly pick out some key financial information. The reason that this black and white version is provided this evening is that this is actually what was adopted in June. And so I just wanted to point a couple of things out, and then we'll get into the difference and why we're doing a 45-day revise. So the adopted budget in June, if everybody can follow this quickly, essentially the top section outlines all of the revenues in the general fund for the district. And so the line that's important to look at there is the subtotal of unrestricted revenues. These are our Fund 1 or general revenues. That was what was adopted. And then our expenses. Those are the two big numbers that we always operate by, and typically, quick rule of thumb, you always look at your revenues, you always look at your expenses, and if you have more revenues than expenses, then you're adding to the savings account, your fund balance. If the opposite is true, then you're operating in a deficit. So the adopted budget, there seemed to be a little bit of confusion, which is why I brought this additional sheet this evening. The adopted budget was adopted at a deficit. However, the confusing point is that it was also considered it was considered a positive certification. Those are different things. Positive certification means that we do not go below our statutory fund balance in 3 years. It does not mean that we don't have a deficit. So we did adopt a budget with a deficit. I just wanted to make that clear because there seemed to be a little confusion when we were discussing it internally and with our community. So the big number that I always focus on is in that third year, the bottom right-hand corner. You can see at the end of 3 years, the adopted budget was ending with only about $23,000 left in the piggy bank over the statutorily required and locally required limit. So we were getting down really close, and of course, you can see that the deficit projected in that year is about $3 million. And so if we were to actually get down to that $23,000, then the next year would be a pretty serious financial year for everybody. So we never want to get there. We always want to plan ahead and make sure that we're addressing those things before we actually get to that point. And so that's something just for background. And that leads us into the 45-day revise, or what has changed since we adopted the budget. Okay, so what you have in front of you is a brief presentation about the significant changes that have been made. Some quick reminders. The big changes are that our revenues are down by $650,000 from what we were projecting them to be from budget adoption. There's a really good reason for that, and that is because the one-time money was lowered significantly, and only a portion of that one-time money was then added into the base funding of the LCFF formula. Now, that's actually good news for us. When does losing money become good news, right? It becomes good news when portions of the one-time money go into the permanent allocation. So even though it might take us 3 years to get back up to what was promised in one-time money, that's money that can't be taken away. It's not one-time. It becomes part of our permanent household budget, if you will. So even though in year one, it creates a much larger shortfall than we were anticipating, over the course of time, which I'll show you mathematically in a second, it's actually better news for the district. So it wasn't everything we hoped for, but I never like hair on fire moments. I always like people to think, okay, how does this work? So I want a little bit of clarity about that. So that was a one-time decrease to discretionary funds. We did get a little bit of an increase to the K3 allotment and a slight increase to lottery, but the overall net, $650,000 a year less this year. The things that drive our revenues, of course, are our enrollment. We are at full implementation of LCFF. We got a much larger COLA this year, which has helped augment that base. So the COLA, I don't know if anybody followed this stuff. Some of us thank you. It's not just me, great, right? So we started at 2.7, and then it went to 2.79, and then it went to 2.85, and then it went to 3, and it's almost like, gosh, where's it going next? And we ended up at 3.7, right? So a really healthy COLA added on to the final year of formula implementation. So revenues did go up sooner with full implementation and faster than we thought. Our unduplicated pupil count is 68%, which means that we also get supplemental concentration funding. What does fully funded look like here? I always give this chart because people always say, well, how much money do we get per student in this grade level or in this group? And so this is just a quick reference chart so that you can always answer that question. And as this changes, you'll get an updated chart so that you can always have it for reference. So it's projected that the district will receive a total of about $75 million in LCFF funding this year, and that's a base amount of about $59.6 million. And a grade span CTE funding at about $2.3 million, and the supplemental concentration funding of about $12.6 million. Mm-hmm. Our average daily attendance is at 7,455, and again, our unduplicated pupil count is at about 68%. Those numbers have all been holding steady, by the way. There's no surprises there.
So our ADA, sorry.
Go ahead.
So our ADA has been holding steady over the course of the past 3 years? It hasn't gone up at all?
It's gone up, yeah. Last year wasn't as much as we had projected, but it looks like we look about 150. We've been projecting, kind of growing in our enrollment.
Year over
so,
year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing to keep in mind with ADA is the number that you see in the fiscal reports. People always say, but it doesn't match what we have, and that's because it's a 3-year average, so that great fluctuations up and down don't impact us that much. So they do give a little bit of a smoothing for us. Okay? Cost drivers. Other than salary and benefit increases negotiated with our employee units, driven costs are our fastest growing expense. Those are our retirement contributions to STRS and PERS, our health care and our OPEB. Extra stars, if anybody knows what OPEB stands for. Really?
Post-employee benefits.
That's right, other post-employment benefits. So things that we pay for employees after they retire. And of course, payroll taxes. And there were some shifts in payroll taxes this past year. This is just to illustrate the amount that STRS and PERS are going up. The really interesting thing is if you look in 21, 22, I think is what I call the tipping point year, which is only 2 years off. In 21, 22, the cost of total compensation is much easier to calculate because you can just multiply everything by 1.5. And so rule of thumb, a $50,000 employee will automatically at that point cost $75,000 just to bring on board. That doesn't count training costs, that's just employment costs. So we are at that point very, very soon. The multi-year projection, I just handed you the adopted one. We're going to go over the revised one. So the assumptions, because we always make assumptions. Our multi-year projections are just that. They're projections. And so these are the assumptions that lead to those projections. Full implementation, only COLA in the future as far as revenue increases. And then we always base our growth. So somebody asked about growth a moment ago, and we always base our growth on conservative projections. And the reason that we do that is we don't want to go too high and then plan on getting money that never shows up. So we always are very careful about that. Kylie keeps us nice and reined in so that we stay in our lane and we don't go too far with our assumptions. So the multi-year projection. So here's the big slide again that everybody needs to pay attention to. And you have the old one for comparison purposes. So the interesting thing is that we go in this year, in current year, we go from $150,000 in this year deficit to about $800,000, which makes sense. If we lose $650,000 in revenues, we add $650,000 to our planned deficit for this year. The other interesting thing to point out is that I've broken out for everybody, because this gets really confusing for folks, our fund balance. Because what portions are in fund balance? And so the fund balance is always what we start with at the beginning of the year. We either add or subtract based upon whether we're in deficit spending or not. We then come up with this figure. We take out our 6% statutory reserve, our cash, and ending fund balance.
Chris, can I ask a question, or do you want to
Yes,
take
ma'am.
that
No,
after?
go ahead. I'm sorry, Jackie.
Our mandated cost reimbursements didn't come in as high as we projected?
That's what they took away. That was the trade-off. So the one-time money, or the MCRs,
Yeah.
so they reduced it by more than half, and they didn't give us a full half back
right.
into
They
the
took it
base.
and-
They
and
gave
they
us about a
make it-
third
that's-
of what they took away.
Okay, and so they're going to, and so I also noticed both years, you actually didn't fill in the mandated cost reimbursements.
That's correct.
So that's also a question mark out there for the world, right? Because that's always negotiated in budget. That just happens to be the case. So I just want to be, yeah, okay, I'm not freaking out, I'm just saying, like, I forgot that that was the trade-off. But
It is
I just
the-
want to be transparent about the two different, kind of the significant
I
drop.
actually wrote
Also
this
is
down 'cause-
mandated cost reimbursements, and that was a negotiation in the state budget negotiations about increasing our base grant of LCFF to a higher base grant, so that over the long term, we get more money.
Yeah.
And so, but we are I don't mean to take over your presentation.
No, you're
I will
correct.
wait. And that, we just don't know what the mandated cost will be in 1920 or 2021.
Yep.
Okay.
And I actually wrote it down here that the proposed budget, it was $295 per ADA, and then at the May revise, it went to $344, and then the actual adopted was $184.
Right.
So it kind of,
Right.
Okay, I just wanted, that's where our loss was. I just wanted to be transparent with
Correct.
the people watching.
Yeah. And that's always the first one that goes or comes depending upon the economy as well. So that's the most volatile portion of our funding, which is also why you see that we project it as at zero, because that's always the thing that's negotiated. You're absolutely right.
Right,
Yeah.
so,
Great.
excellent.
The interesting thing, so we lose $650,000 in 1 year, but I'd like you to look at the bottom right-hand corner again and notice that without doing anything, our reserves go up. And that's because that base funding
Goes back.
we get
Right.
each year. So it actually reduces our year in, year out planned deficit. Now, that doesn't mean we don't need to be cautious, because that fund balance is still not enough to take care of that now. It's gone from $2.9 to $2.4 million deficit 2 years out. It's just that it's gotten a little easier for us to plan for. So the responsibility, of course, of the administration, so that we don't have big peaks and big problems in funding coming and going, is to plan for reducing that deficit over the next 18 months so that we don't have a big impact to the system. And so that's what we'll be working hard at. So that's really the nuts and bolts of the 45-day revise. And of course, you'll be getting last year's unaudited actuals coming up, as well as the audit. And then our next presentation on this year's budget will be at the first interim, and we'll highlight any progress we've made on any of those areas at that time.
Okay, does anyone have any questions or comments?
There's a public comment, if you want to take that one.
Okay, all right, let's go first with public comment. Don Stauffer.
Hello again. I have some questions on the 45-day revise. First, I mean, anybody who's spent any time talking to me know I have, one of my bête noirs is this 2% step and column that seemed to be favored by school financial people, because I unfortunately had a little bit too much graduate level biology dealing with life tables and things like that. There is no such thing as 2%. Step and column. It mathematically doesn't work. So I'd love to know how our CBO makes that assumption. And on that, if you go back to the other part of the included board report, which was page 106 from the unrestricted general fund, underneath the certificated salaries, it lists step and column, but the numbers listed there don't equal 2% of the salary. So I'm wondering what numbers were actually used. There's also another item, another adjustment in 2019-20 of minus 1.271 million. Want to know what that number is? And I think I had one other question, but I can.
Where are you looking at?
And is the cost of living estimate, again on this, from page 106 in the board report, is that our contract increase, or is that another COLA number from someplace else? Anyway, thank you. Yeah, sure. This is a little different. I mean, oh, good.
Great. I will
You,
not,
you,
I will not
okay, hold
remember
on,
all
guys.
of
Okay.
those.
Let's,
What was the first question? I'm sorry, Dan.
let's go ahead and get
We're
some
going to have,
clarification.
we'll just probably agree to disagree on step and column. I mean,
That's actually fairly simple. Every district makes an assumption with step and column based on the average of the cost every year. Remember, these numbers are projections, so all we can go off of is a 3 or 5 year trend analysis, which is what most districts do, and every district's different. So in my last district, our average step and column increases year over year was only 1%. In this district, it averages 2%. Now, think of all the variables for a second that go into that formula, right? So you get retirees that go, and then you have people that come in, presumably, if people are retiring lower on the schedule. And so that number is always floating, so it is a projection. It's the best guess based on what the trend has been over the last 3 to 5 years.
Right.
I was going to ask the public to please sit, because it's appropriate when you make a public comment that we have you sit, and then we, as a board, get to ask questions. I'm so sorry, Don.
I'm sorry.
May I call?
That's right.
Okay, I'm so sorry, Don. Can I ask you to have a seat?
I'll just help them with the questions because they're rather.
Okay, yes, we did give direction to get some clarification.
The second question is on the item listed under step and column in the board report. It doesn't equal 2% of salary, so I'm wondering what actually that was based on. And then there is another adjustment of minus 1.271 million.
President Alcala,
Yes.
I'm just wondering if the Board of Trustees would
Yes.
like a follow-up report from
That would be-
business services, so that you could have all of the information?
Yes.
Of what was asked?
Thank you. If we could get that information, that would be great.
And we can certainly also, from the person, whenever a person makes a public comment.
Yes.
We want to make sure that we get back to the person individually to make sure that their questions are answered too.
Thank you very much. That would be great. Chris, if you could do that and get that information back to them.
I still
Okay, do we have any comments from Board Member Pizzotti?
Yeah. So I still have some, future or questions as to the structure going forward of our deficit. I know Governor Brown has been incredibly tight-fisted with his projections, from his first January budget to his May revise, and the LAO has, chronically stated you were way off, but it has done us a good thing by building up a big surplus overall, and has led us, instead of getting into one-time monies, into an actual COLA that is going to build us over and over and over and over as the years go on. Looking into some structural issues, in terms of the debt retirement for like the high school, is that being factored into this?
Wow. Couple of parts to that. So first of all, the COLA projections that you're referencing, those are through FICMAT and the dartboard from Fiscal Services that come through. So all of those projected COLAs are what everybody in the state is using, and those are adjusted whenever they're adjusted. Now, you made comment to sort of the good and the bad that the governor has done by being so conservative, but then we've actually gotten a little used to there always being a little extra one-time money now, right?
Right.
And so is that good, has been one of the conversations, rather than readjusting the formula. Because the reminder that we have to keep with us is that the LCFF formula was for an adequate public education circa 2008.
Right. No.
Right? So, I mean, there's all sorts of things that go in there. Now, the costs that you're referencing, as far as servicing our internal debt, currently 2 COPs that were for solar and other projects, and then 1 large COP that we recently refunded to, that was used to build the high school, roughly $80 million of internal debt. That all of those expenses are included in our budget, not only the adoption, but every time that Kylie and I get up here to give you an update. Now, we are servicing that debt through mostly developer and redevelopment fees, which are also tied to the economy.
Right.
So the big concern there, because that's a volatile number, is if something happens to the economy, then those developer fees are going to go down, and given the growth in West Sacramento, they could go down pretty radically. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have to pay them. So if the economy goes down, what will likely happen is the amount that the general fund, which we're supposed to be using to educate our children, will have to take a much larger part of that debt service.
Right, right. Well, thank you. I certainly appreciate that response. That's one of the reasons why we've built up a big surplus is for rainy days, though. And I would certainly hope that the next governor would be cognizant of that as we move forward. There's, as you can see in the on the agenda, I have something for September on here regarding a new school resource officer that I'd like to find funding for. And, I don't know, the way this is laid out currently, if there's funding in there, but I would certainly like to make it a priority for us to identify either grant funding or to find some way to, make this some kind of a reality for us, as school safety is absolutely the top priority of every parent's mind, being a parent myself. It's, one of the things I think about every day, especially with this last year. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Okay, we have a comment from Board Member Jackie Wong.
Actually, a question. I keep on reminding people that we are a concentration grant school, and there's 68% unduplicated, which is low-income foster youth and English language learners. And so a big kind of conversation in the educational equity conversations around the state is whether or not we're spending money on them. And I would like to say that oftentimes, your perspective, that we're making those investments using those concentration grants appropriately for transparency. Those dollars follow those special populations.
Yes. One of the nice things about the way that we've reported, and Kylie might want to go more into this if you have follow-up questions, is that the way that we are reporting and the way we track that, of course, transparently is through our LCAP report, which is why those budget totals follow the programs that are targeted to help remove barriers to education and success in education for those student populations. And you can see that we far exceed the amount that we receive in supplemental concentration funding because the district's done such a good job at tracking that, which again is in Kylie's shop. But that's why also the LCAP is reviewed and can be rewritten every year to make sure it's appropriate. But right now we are definitely transparently spending far more than what's allocated.
And I track that in a different resource.
Yeah.
And we actually break it down by goals. So I think at the adopted budget, we brought to you kind of our spreadsheet that shows you all of our actions that we're doing and the dollar amount tied to that. So we do track it that way.
I do appreciate that because there are other districts being sued for not appropriately spending it on those targeted school districts. USD may be one of them. And so, yes. And so, again, I'm always really proud to be here because we're actually putting students first. Often, and special education and whatnot. I mean, Martha's comment said it all when a parent comes up and tells us of kind of the fruits of our labor, if you will, making the right investments in a transparent way. That makes me very proud as a part of the WSD team. So I appreciate you tracking it that way, if only to protect our liability from
And it definitely
others.
makes it a lot easier when the auditors are asking how we fulfilled that action, so.
Okay, great. We have a question or comment from Board Member Sarah Kirby-Gonzalez.
Hi, thank you. And I appreciate the follow-up that we'll have later with a few of the questions as well. And I was glad to hear you say one of my questions was just to make it, which is important for the public to hear, and you already nailed that, which was the fully funded means adequate funding in 2008. And so it's very important for the public to understand that fully funded is 2008 numbers and it's adequate, like a floor. So I appreciate you saying that. And my understanding, and if it's not the case, and I hope it will be, is that we'll have a budget study session so we can delve into some of those things that you're talking about. And we also know that we need to look at some priorities, and I know staff will be doing that, but I would like for us to have that conversation as well. So I hope that we will have a budget study session to go deeper into these numbers as well as we look at priorities and making sure that this all works for us. Thank you.
That's a great point. And I agree, we're still a decade behind,
Right.
in terms of being really, truly fully funded, so.
Okay, any other comments? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, trustees.
Okay, so now, let's see, we actually have to, this is an action item, so we have to have a motion?
Move to adopt.
Yes, okay, second?
I'll second. Oh,
Okay,
I'll second.
okay, second, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimously passed. Okay, now we go to action item Q2, approval of the adoption of Resolution 181903, certification of signatures. Chris Bumpanitis.
You should just take a seat.
Apologize, I should have stayed up and
It's okay.
recognized that. So the certification of signatures is just your authorization for the signatories for the school district, including myself. So it updates all of the signatories for the school district at this time.
Right, okay. May I get a motion? So moved. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, roll call vote. Roll call vote. That's correct, thank you. Sarah Kirby-Gonzalez.
Aye.
Jackie Wong.
Aye.
Kobe Pizzati. Aye. And I also vote aye. Unanimously passed. Okay, and now P4. Thank you. P4, we have, thank you. Approval of the revised job description for the Director of Technology Human Resources. Here we go.
So with the vacancy in the position of Director of Technology, we took the opportunity to do some revision work with the job description before we went out to search. So that is the job description that's before you this evening with item P4 to ask for your approval of that particular item. So
Thank you.
I'm assuming there's a question.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. I asked for this to be pulled, and I'm supportive of moving forward with this, but I wanted to make some comments in doing so. One, I think it's important to really realize that technology in our district in the classroom, in terms of what's happening with our students, is far exceeding what's happening all around. It's a really nice model for other districts. We're doing really incredible things. All you have to do is go visit StuCon, and you can see that it's just really phenomenal what our technology department has done. And so I want to ensure that that momentum carries. And when looking at this job description, I'd like two things. One, to hear just the process of how it was developed and who it was developed with. And two, the commitment that if it goes out and you and the team, which I hope includes some current technology people, don't feel like it's a strong enough fit, that it will go out again. Because we want to make sure that we have a really good fit in this district. So I'm really proud of where we are and the momentum, and I wouldn't want to lose that.
Sure. And I'm back up here again because instructional technology and information technology is now back in business services. So we actually revised the job description by taking a number of them that were recent postings in the field and editing them together and then circulating it down through all sorts of levels of the district. We had some administrators at the site level look at it. We had cabinet look at it because we don't want to lose the connection, particularly with educational services. And then we had the IT department look at it and vet it and give their input. Enough people are interested in the process that we will have at least 3, if not 4, interview committees by the time it gets there, and all of the interested current IT department members that are interested will also be serving on those committees.
Thank you.
Okay, so we,
Okay, so with that, I will make a motion to approve.
thank you. And seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously approved. We will now move to board governance. R1 was removed, so we will now go to R2. Letter of invitation and information for CSBA Equity Network, Jackie Wong.
Okay. So I know that a lot of CSB invitations we said as a board we're not going to bring to the board, but I think this is actually fairly important. I was invited by CSB as a delegate and as a current member to be part of a grant-supported equity network for the districts in the rest of the state. So one of 10 to 12 districts and board members to actually be part of a conversation about how do we really make equity-based decisions, as I was talking earlier at the 45-day. And so part of that is, again, it's being funded by the Stewart Foundation. All travel and hotel costs will be paid for whoever participates, and it's for myself and another board member, and so I didn't want to assume. And so that it's up for discussion as to who might be interested in this opportunity, and I don't think it's costing us anything because it's grant funded by Stewart Foundation.
And what dates
time.
is that?
So it's in the, again, and I don't know if we have to make a decision. We are looking for, we have to respond to CSBA by August 13th. But essentially, I think it's a really great opportunity because of what I've learned, because you guys have nominated me to be a delegate, which I've learned, kind of a lot about kind of what the rest of the state is doing. And I think that equity means a lot of different things to over 1,000 school boards across the way and 5,000 school board members. And so I've been kind of not struggling, but I've been having a lot of conversations with my colleagues and CSB leadership about what does equity really mean and how do we actually make that transparent in our funding, given everything that I had spoken about earlier. What does concentration grants, what is the intentionality of LCFF? And what are the special populations and what are their needs, right? And so how do you make values-based decision-making in budget, right, that's aligned to the promise of the local control funding formula? And so I think this is a really great opportunity for us to think together with other like-minded school board members, granted in a continuous learning environment. And I would love to have any one of you be part of this network with me.
I see some of the dates here. On the second page, Does everyone have that?
Does-
On page 114?
So on, and I don't know if we have to make a decision now, or if people need to just kind of.
Okay.
And for
Perhaps we
transparency,
can-
do you look at the dates,
So,
you look at the
c-
commitments?
Superintendent Luna, could you give some direction there?
I believe that the applications are due on Monday, August 13th. There is a requirement for a signature and commitment from the district superintendent, from the board president, and from the board as a whole in regards to the commitment of these dates. There are some virtual dates so that when they have the network meetings, it's not every single month that they are in person. They do trade off in person, and then the next month could be virtual. Also, at the CSBA conference, they have an optional meeting there too. So they're trying to make it convenient, as well as trying to increase the inclusion of school board members to really keep moving the equity lens forward.
And again, this is a great honor. It's really only 10 to 12 districts of, again, 1,000
Right.
across the state.
Okay, so
don't know who's
Superintendent Luna, it would be okay if this is a wonderful opportunity, and I think the board would be very interested, other board members would also be very interested in accompanying Board Member Wong, but everyone's sort of looking at their calendars, so
Yes.
maybe we can just,
If
I did
we-
all mine. I just looked up every date for me. So if you want to have a discussion now, or if you want to wait, I'm ready if you want to, but if you want to
We
wait.
just have to move forward names by
well,
Monday.
let's,
Yeah.
okay, and perhaps we can,
So I would recommend having a discussion now because I have to move forward. Or what
Okay.
I could do is I could forward my name and see if we can hold it for a member later.
The commitment is due on Monday. All the paperwork is due by August 31st.
Right.
I myself would be very interested. I know equity's always been a big issue yeah, in the district, and I think we've had a fantastic board that has made certain that the resources have been well distributed in this area, but if anyone else is interested, you know,
I
Sarah?
just looked at the dates, so I can do, as you know, I have my schedule adjusted for Fridays off. They're all Fridays and Saturdays, except for the first one, which is the 27th. So that's the only date that I would need. I don't get vacation days, so, but I could see if my partner teacher can trade me that day. So that is the only potential conflict. There's no conflict with the others. And I will add that when I went to the suburban schools meeting, it was very telling because a member of that group said, a superintendent said, again, we were in the suburban school, and said, there are some real winners in LCFF, and it's those of you that have supplemental grants. And I said, do you know exactly what that means? Do you know exactly what that means, why we have supplemental grants and what we're doing with that money? And I got a little heated and explained how we're using our money and what that money is intended for and doing. And quite a few people in the room clearly were not getting supplemental grants, and there was a lot of pushback, to be honest. And there were other districts that were saying things such as, well, I've seen people not, they don't know what to do with that money once they get it. And I just know that that is just not true. So I think that this is a very important issue, and I think that districts such as ours can lead the way to help educate others who maybe do not have the same circumstances or understanding. So I am interested, but I do have a conflict with that date, and I don't know if that's a deal breaker for them.
Trustee Pizzotti?
Yeah, my dates are open. The only thing that I always have to be cognizant of is that we're in a, even number year, and I'm a political consultant, so I'm going to be doing campaign work from September until November. I probably won't be able to make some of those in-person dates in September and October. So, I think it would be difficult, but I mean, if Sarah, if your availability is there, that's great. Anybody else's is great. But I would certainly be interested if I would be able to get away.
I think we have quite a few
that sounds
of
like
our
I'm too
board
interested.
members interested. I was just wondering if, yes, well, you're going. You're going. I'm just saying the other spot. I'm wondering if there's could we interchange that second person? Do you know?
What I can do is, what we can do, the names are just moving forward on Monday, so that was why I wanted to have the discussion today. The paperwork is a little bit later, so what we can do is send forward to Ms. Maxwell Jolly the names and say, can we actually tag team,
Yeah.
That's what I'm
tag team
thinking.
that? But I do think it's because it's a cohort learning model, that as teachers, there's something to be said about having the same cohort of learners go through that network. So let me ask. I'm just going to put that out there as, I can say now I'm a teacher, right? I'll say it later. Not a classroom teacher.
Okay.
But yeah. So I'll ask, but I think there's probably something about kind of the cohort,
Okay.
model.
Okay. All right. Very good.
So I'm
Do
getting
we need
everybody,
direction?
are
I
we
think
moving
everyone's
forward?
interested in, so maybe you can ask that question and then we can,
I need direction.
Yeah.
I'll use the staff line. Please give me direction.
okay, well, Jackie's definitely going, but I would like to find out if others would be available. I know I'd be interested, but it appears all of us.
I'll pass. I'll let
Okay.
you guys fight it out.
Okay.
Okay.
And with that, you could ask if if missing one meeting, the first meeting looks like that might be
I'm
important. So you could
pretty
ask that
open for
question
everything.
too, and then it could be, I would defer to my board
Okay.
colleague.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Just for clarification, Trustee Wong, are you going to be following up on this, or would you like some help with that?
I'm happy to follow up.
Okay, great, thank
Okay.
you.
Does
You're
this need action? Do we need
No.
to actually take action?
No, it doesn't need
Discussion?
action, but it will need a signature probably at the next board meeting for
Okay,
the
and you're
paperwork.
going to need a letter from the
Correct, so
president.
we'll bring
Okay.
that to the next board agenda to finalize it, and then the board can then do the signatures.
Wonderful, okay. So we will now move on to board and superintendent comments. Trustee Sarah Kirby Gonzalez.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your public comments on the MTSS. That was appreciated, and it's always good to hear. It's good to hear the positive, and it's also good to hear the concerns as well. So thank you for bringing forward things. I appreciated the moment of silence for Teresa Blackmer. When I was first considering running for school board, she was one of the very first people that I met in the community who reached out to me. And I could just feel her passion and her love for West Sacramento and for Washington Unified, and how proud she was to represent classified staff in her role. And so I really appreciated what I learned from her, and wanted to make those comments. I would also like to acknowledge that we accepted the resignation tonight of Assistant Superintendent Michael Reed, because he will be moving on, and I'm sure that others will say comments, but I want to thank you for your time here. And it's exciting to have job descriptions all updated, and there's been a lot of work that's been done. So thank you, and I wish you very good luck in the next district that you are going to. And I hope that everyone has had some time this summer. We've had staff working all over, and not everyone has gotten to take a break. But I hope that everyone has had some time to reflect with their families as schools have been quieter, and had time to really reflect on why they're here and what they do. Because, of course, our school community is so important to our health and having a positive school environment for our kids, but also taking care of ourselves and our personal lives as well. So as we go into this new school year, I wish everybody good luck. And I apologize, this is my very first time missing an orientation, and I just can't make it. So I have conflicts of my own at work. So, but I'm very sorry to miss it. I know that it will be very special. And what a great room to be in, a room when you have all of our employees who are eager to get into their classrooms too and start working, but all coming together. And so I will definitely miss being there. And as we move on, I also appreciated the conversation, the comments about evaluations. And Assistant Superintendent Michael Reed and Don Stoffer and I had visited San Juan Unified. They have a strong model for what they do in terms of their evaluations and really growing everyone. We all need to grow. You don't want an evaluation that just says good job. Nobody at any level does. You want a deeper piece in that, because we're all working, we're all growing. And so I hope that more of that dialogue comes. And just a last comment and thought as we had talked about town hall meetings here in this room, and thinking forward about a town hall that might be needed in our community. I think one that would be helpful would be principal cafes are so meaningful. People can come out, they hear the resources. There's so many great resources in this district, but possibly having a time in the evening where people can get that too. So I think it would be something that would be worth considering if any of my board colleagues would like to do this with me. A town hall on one, resources, and two, on what is the procedure? What is the procedure that I should go to if I have questions or concerns? Certainly the community can always come right to the board, but we're not always the most efficient in terms of, I get a call sometimes for me about a cafeteria policy that maybe then I have to go call here and we have to move here. So helping people through that process of where's the most immediate place that you're going to get help and feedback and support, and what that looks like all along the way. And so throwing that out there. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Pizzotti?
Yeah, thank you. I actually really like that idea, Trustee Kirby Gonzalez, about having town hall on those issues, and I would be very interested in doing that with you. And I was thinking about this, as you mentioned, this is Mike Reed's last night. This would probably be a great idea or a great night for, WSTA and CSEA to have a roast of Mike Reed, right? We could do the roast of Mike Reed show up here and let them all. Let them all have their wax as he's walking out the door. Anyway, Mike, you've been a great asset in terms of putting in systems and protocols and structures that were lacking for a long time. And you've put those in as a structure for things for the person who replaces you. And that's something that we really do truly appreciate. I know you have your work cut out for you where you're headed. And I can only wish you the best of luck there. It's really sad to see you go, but at the same time, I can only wish you the best because, this is a tremendous opportunity for you. With that, hopefully don't say goodbye. Hopefully I'll see you at other events and other meetings and we'll be able to catch up and commiserate. So let me just get into some of the things that I've done over the last couple of days. So this past weekend, Trustee Wong and I and Councilmember Orozco held a backpack drive and a school supply drive at the Sail Inn Grotto. And, it was for the Yolo County Children's Alliance, and I got to say, our community is so incredibly fabulous. It just absolutely baffles the mind when you put the idea out there and let people know there is a huge need for the children in our community. Our community steps up. They absolutely stepped up. So there were 3 truckloads of school supplies that were delivered to the Yolo County Children's Alliance with backpacks. Some backpacks were already stuffed to the gills. So it was, one of those kind of awe-inspiring moments when you see, just the amount of donations that come in. And they started at 9 in the morning and they didn't end until 6 o'clock at night. And that was just, it was, on a Sunday when everybody had other things to do. People went out, they went to the dollar store, they went to Target, they went to wherever, and they cleaned those places out because our kids need it. And, that's why I'm really, really proud to be a West Sacramentan and on the school board, is because we have opportunities to do things like this where we can give back to our own kids in our community and we can see the benefits. So every kid will have an opportunity to go to school and start the year on the right track and not have a need or a want like that. So that was just something I was really proud of, and I was really proud to be a partner with Trustee Wong, Councilmember Roscoe, on that. Additionally, Tuesday was National Night Out, and we loaded up the school bus and made our annual trek through with all our trustees, and we had kids in tow. I had mine, Trustee Wong had her too, and Trustee Akala had her granddaughter with her, and of course we had Yorgos, he's our other our other kid. And Superintendent Luna with us as we trek through the community, passing out pencils and some chips and other things. And it was really good because this year, for the first time that I've been on the board, I got to be a part of a different stop route, right? We normally hit one certain stop route. And this year, we actually did a different stop route. So it was good to explore different parts of the community and see those different National Nights Out events that were being transpiring throughout the community. And everybody was really excited about it. And it was just a great, well-put-on event by everybody. So I was really impressed by that. And then finally this morning, I was able to make it out to the new teacher orientation with Trustee Wong, and it was really impressive. There's a lot of fresh faces there. There's a lot of excitement in the room. A lot of people that were coming from new districts or from old districts into our district. Some that were coming straight out of their credentialing programs. But the mix was really cool, and the energy was really cool. And it was really nice to see our assistant superintendents and superintendent working with these people and talking and collaborating with them and kind of showing them the ropes of what we do here and how we're a big family. And that was one of the things that I definitely heard over and over, was that how we are a big family at WSD, and it really does, make me proud to sit up here as one of the trustees to say we're a family, and it's a good thing, and it's really good to see that all of the the new teachers coming on board understand that, and so with that, I think that's all I have, and I will just once again like to say, so long, Mike.
Okay. Trustee Wong?
Good evening, everybody. Wow, I'll save my tears for Mike at the end of this kind of long update, because he's counting the minutes, so maybe I'll talk for 3 hours or so, just because I want to savor the moment. But I wanted to start off with actually thanking President Alcala and Trustee Kirby Gonzalez for actually coming to my Sac State class for the school nursing credential on Sunday. All the students, they were extremely impressed. They went back. I think they're going to go back to their own districts, inspired to actually focus on school-based health policy. And so earlier you heard my joke, was like, do I count like as a teacher yet? Not really. They're graduate students, and it's a little bit different. But I was really proud in that moment to be able to ask my colleagues to actually impact the learning and kind of learning of the students that I was teaching all summer long. And even the lead teacher and the Sac State is so grateful, and they want you back next year if you guys are open to doing that. The school supply donation drive, I have to say that we actually pulled that off in a week and a half,
Right.
by the way, so there wasn't a whole lot of planning, and I think that's even more powerful from a conversation on Tuesday with collateral happening on Wednesday, that many folks were able to come out and donate, and I am so just overwhelmed with joy. Just this community just inspires me. Our network inspires me. I understand that the goal was 700 backpacks. We got an email this morning is that we have more than 700 backpacks filled, and so hopefully folks will be able to come out to Yolo County Children's Alliance on Saturday. On Todd Hunter to actually help us celebrate with the kids and the family, because it will also be a health fair, so please do join us. If you want to volunteer, my kids and I and a couple of neighborhood kids will be there at 8 o'clock in the morning helping to kind of set up, so if there are folks who are interested in that as well. I also wanted to actually thank Chris for something also behind the scenes, that a volunteer group also volunteered to paint at a school site, and he made that happen really quickly, so really appreciate the ease at which that happened, and Superintendent Luna as well. So I should say the executive team in a very last minute fashion. Really thankful that was able to be pulled together for those students at that time. National Night Out, I told everybody I would do this. We were trying to sing ABC, easy as 1, 2, 3. But it just didn't happen, so I promised that I would do that here on the mic.
She was told no.
I am a
the
woman
DJ.
of my word, and I am consistent, and we tried to sing karaoke at our last stop, and they all looked at me like I was crazy. The DJ actually said, well, if you don't know the words, you probably shouldn't sing it. But I know the chorus, and we know, and he's like, no, it's not happening. So I was also able to go to the CSB Leadership Conference in San Francisco, and it was amazing. I have a lot of materials that I will send to staff as well as board members to look over. It was technology and safety focused. Was one of the kind of the presentations that actually also about leadership. So I'll start with kind of technology because it's top of mind. Hadi Partavi from code.org was able to present, and he was actually talking about kind of the future of the industry and employment, and what it's not about coding, it's about computer science, because we're replacing people every day, our toll booths, hamburger making, all of that. So the question becomes whether or not we as a district are preparing our students for the future. When you think about automated cars, right, that can drive themselves. I have a car that actually almost drives itself because of the lane monitoring and everything like that. Or, I mean, there are cars out there on the road right now. But I am also proud to say when I actually went there, I was thinking about the teachers who my daughters had. And yes, Mike, I am speaking a lot because I normally don't speak a lot because I don't want you to leave. But really, really impressed with the teachers that I've had because they've actually had a technology focus, right? And just really just thinking about how impressed I am with our last technology director, and I want us to actually kind of continue that trend. One of the things that, the stories that he shared was that as of now, you know, people think doctors make a lot of money, radiologists make a whole lot of money, but he put this out there is that a computer can do a better job than a human right now as a radiologist, because what they do is they look at scans, right? And they can actually pick out what's wrong with that scan quicker and faster, more efficiently than a human eye, right? That gets old. So that's just something to think about, and just kind of got my mind kind of thinking about things like that. Also, safety was a big theme. I was able to go to a presentation by San Bernardino County, and as you know, what happened in San Bernardino County in the regional center, the public health executive was there, and she was just really emotional and talking about the things that we should be doing. Also, you know, Matthew Balzerani from Lammersville Unified School District, who does safety cert work for school districts across the state, was there, and so there's a lot of good resources that we maybe should consider. A lot of the things that I know that we're already implementing, like a safety team that I know that the executive team has already put together with some folks. So, but I'm again happy to share this because I think it's good stuff. And lastly, I think there was a kind of at the top of the hour a conversation about what it meant to be on a board, right, and where our values were, and that we should not be distracted by certain things, right? There are certain things that are high priority and low priority, and high value and low value, and the question is we need to figure out where our values are and where we're spending our energy. And so oftentimes where boards get derailed is when they get distracted on other things that aren't actually focused on kids and the goals that we put before us in our LCAP and our strategy. So that was a good reminder of our retreat and the conversations we've had in the past. Because I feel like, again, speaking about, you know, from the 45-day, you know, at the beginning of the year, that we should focus on kind of our strategic plan and our LCAP, because I think they're good, and I think they're one of the best, and maybe I'm biased, best in the state. And I've read a lot of LCAPs. And so that's what I took away from that CSB Leadership Conference. And I am just every day grateful that you guys actually allowed me to be in this space. So thank you all again for allowing me to be a delegate. So, and orientation this morning was great. And it was great to actually see friends, right? When you sit there and you go, oh my gosh, like you're here from another district, or oh, you're here from this other field, and you know the character and the content of the character, right? And I assume that of all our teachers, but when you know somebody personally, like we're attracting really great talent here. Mm-hmm. And that's because of Mike and the team. I know. And it just kind of hit me that this is happening. He's done so much for this district. I was able to brag about all the work that he did at CSBA conference last year, but today was a really great reminder of what we're losing when I saw those friendly faces in the audience, because I know the quality and the caliber of teachers in that room right now and in our district right now because of Mike. So I thank you for that. I always call you, the Boy Scout. You have a moral core to you, and you believe in our teachers, and I thank you for that. I thank you for taking us through that. Last but not least, I know I had a conversation with Don Stauffer the other day about implicit bias, because I'm glad that it reminded me of what, when I first joined the board, and I don't want us to ever lose that. And implicit bias training, hopefully that can be rolled out eventually in a more kind of large-scale district way, because I know that I understand there's interest from teachers to actually also go through implicit bias training, and I think that would mean a lot to our students and our families if we were able to implement that with fidelity. But thank you. So that's it.
Thank you. Mike, thank you so much. Everyone knows you've been a champion for WUSD. And, Yuba is going to be so fortunate to have you. We're going to miss you a lot, Mike. Thank you so much for everything you've done. Okay, so Teresa Blackmere, we all feel her loss. I ran into her just about a month ago over at Yellow Federal. We were standing in line together. And even though she was no longer on the board, children were always a concern for her. We had some very good conversations, told me about her time on the board. And she continued, to advocate for children and be concerned and make some wonderful recommendations. So, we have really lost a very strong advocate in our community, but I think she inspired many of us. So we have been very fortunate to have known her. I went to the leadership team's event, and I got there a little late, but I got there in time for lunch, so that was great. Very good lunch. I had some great conversations with folks, and it's wonderful because you just see all the enthusiasm that everyone has for the beginning of a new school year. And I know this is being carried out. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go to the new teacher orientation, but I'm glad that our board members have been able to. We've been able to hit all the different events and keep everyone updated on what's been happening. I also went to National Night Out. I did take my granddaughter. It's her first year at River City High School, and she is so excited. I went to the first day of orientation. She was really embarrassed because, I'm tagging along with her, wanted to get some pictures taken. They don't like it when the grandmother does that. But I was happy because it was so, I'm going to post just the incredible uproar. You should have seen these kids really out there, cheering, and Kevin Bracey was there, and he really got them worked up. He went through the ABCs of, school spirit. No, this was A is for, but it was just great. And these are all freshmen, and yet that auditorium was just packed. So it was really interesting to see the diversity and just I'm going to say the fresh innocence that was there. They're freshmen, but it was great because they had their senior classmates there, as buddies, sort of walking them through the school. It was very enjoyable, and my granddaughter's just so hyped and looking forward to beginning her year, which starts next Wednesday, I believe. Okay, and let's see. National Night Out, I've mentioned that. Oh, yes, August 22nd, just want to remind everyone, Sarah Kirby Gonzalez and I will be at Stonegate. We'll be hearing more public comment on, Southport, I'm sorry. Did I say Southgate? Southport, I'm sorry. So we will be hearing more comment on the maps, and that meeting begins, I believe, at 6 o'clock. So we hope that people will come and give us their opinions and make comments on the maps. And then, let's see, actually, Jackie, I know you wanted what was it, ABC song? But
Chapter 5.
Yes, I wanted Alice Cooper's School's Out for Summer. But I was reminded that they're coming back. So, next time we'll do that. And let's see now. Oh, yes, we had a scheduled 2x2, but the city canceled, so I don't have a report on that. And I believe, let's see, that is all that I have to report on. Oh, and also, meet and greet, that's what I was going to mention. Trustee Wong and I will be having a meet and greet later in the month. We'll have an exact date, and we'll make certain that it goes out in the constant contacts to let folks know. And now we have our superintendent comments.
Thank you, President Akala, Board of Trustees, staff, and guests. I kind of like being at the end because I'm just going to celebrate our staff and celebrate the good things that are happening in our district. But before I do that, I just wanted to take a moment, thank you, President Akala, for the moment of silence for former board member Teresa Blackmare. My memory of her is that in my first month of work, back in July 2015, she immediately reached out to me and said, she called me girl. I was her girl. And she'd say, hey, girl, we got to get together. And I said, I absolutely would love that. And that was not our last meeting. And she always reached out to me when there was a storm going on or when there was some advice that I needed. She would always reach out to me. And I always appreciated that. And at that time, she was still advocating for the CSEA employees, too. So she will be missed, and I have very fond memories of her. You heard Chris Benitez mention that we are recruiting for Measure V. So just for the public's sake, we just want to make sure that we understand what the commitment is. It's only 3 to 4 times per year of a meeting in terms of the oversight of the actual bond expenditures. The second thing is just to review all of the activities. And the best part of that also is, of course, to take tours and see the work that has been accomplished under their guidance. And so I'm glad to hear that there are 3 applications already. And so we look forward to more. And there's the application contact there for Angie Nichols, should anybody else have any more questions on that.
Oh,
Yes.
sure.
I'm sorry, normally I wouldn't do this, but since I did have a member of the committee reach out, and I meant to say it earlier, a reminder, it is all listed there, but she thought it was important just to remember that they are not making the decisions on where the money is. They're clearly oversight to make sure the money is spent appropriately as has
Correct.
been determined. Thank you.
Thank you. And then, thank you for that clarification because that's always needed whenever new members come onto a Citizens Oversight Committee, that it's not about the decision-making. The board has made decisions, and that they're ensuring that the expenditures follow what the original bond petition language was. So thank you for that. The next one I wanted to let everybody know about is that our transportation schedules are out, and at the next board meeting, I'm going to bring forward our Director of Transportation because he's been sweating it out because of all of us as staff. He carries the burden of ensuring that all of our bus schedules, not just for the schools, but for students who also have specialized instruction maybe out of town, or they attend a specialized school maybe in Woodland. He puts all of those things together for us. So we want to tell our parents that all of the transportation schedules are now up online. There's our website address right there. After you get onto the website, then you're going to click on announcements that will then highlight our bus schedules starting on our first day of school. We also want to have our parents take note of the new schedule for this coming year, that every single Wednesday is an early release day. That means our students will be released, I believe it's an hour earlier than their normal day, so that all staff across the district will enter into professional learning time every single Wednesday to work on behalf of all of our students. And so that's new for our schedule, and our transportation department is working on that as well. One thing, whenever we start school, the traffic gets a lot heavier, and we get a little bit impatient, not only because of the heat, but in itself, the congestion. We forget about that over the summer when we don't do that every day over the summer. But we just want to bring caution to all of our community members that school will be starting next Wednesday. And that means kids will be walking to school, kids will be waiting at bus stops, and we need the help of our community to be our good partners and just watching out for the safety of all of our kids. I want to thank ahead of time our West Sacramento Police Department, who always ramps up that first day and the first week of school to just give the extra patrol, and so we're grateful for that. Lastly, if there are any questions about any of the transportation schedules or any concerns, we want to hear those in order to help resolve them. So we've put the transportation department phone line on there, and also our parents can call our school principals at any time for any assistance. Thank you, President O'Call, for mentioning our next community forum in regards to community input to our drafted maps. And so we have all of our transition documents going to by area trustee elections up on our website. Our families and our public can click on announcements and go directly to the community forums. And all of the documents are loaded sequential order. The maps are on there by color. And then we would welcome the input at the community forums. But we also want our public to know that they can provide input directly online, and that we receive those responses so that we can inform the board. So our next community forum is Wednesday, August 22nd. It is at Southport School, starting at 6 o'clock. Just a heads up for the board, that evening we also have a very busy evening going on in our schools. There is a back-to-school night for all secondary education. These things, we just didn't get all of the dates together, and so we will just have to keep moving forward to make sure that we stay committed to our dates. National Night Out, I want to thank the board for taking the time to be out in our community and reaching out to our families. We had a really great time together, and it's really a proud moment when we're in our bus, right? We're in our bus, and when we drive up, people notice. And so I'm really proud to represent our district along with the trustees. We just had a really, really great time going out into the neighborhoods and being with our families and community members. Just for a welcome back to school, we are right at the moment now. So just a few things for our families to remember. Wednesday, our students' first day is August 15th. And our teachers' first day is on Monday. So we will be meeting with all of our certificated staff, starting with breakfast, I believe at 7:15 in the morning, where our cabinet will be serving all of our employees. And then we would go into about an hour, maybe less than an hour, going into the River City High School gym and just really celebrating being back together on the first day. Last year it was pretty wild and pretty crazy in terms of school spirit, and this year it's even going to be more so. It's going to be pretty exciting. Classified staff and support staff, they're already in session. Many have been working over the summer. Our grounds, our MOT department, they have been working all summer to prepare for the opening of school, and we're grateful for that. But they will all come together on Tuesday so that all classified support staff will be together, and we're going to go through the same rigmarole of spirit. They get very competitive on this Tuesday morning, by the way. But it's a great moment of just being together. So our administration has been together, and I'm going to share now a little bit about what the administration has been doing because it gives focus to our next school year. We've had 2 days of administrative events, which really is about setting up all of our teams. Our teams are our departments in our schools. We spent 2 days focusing on the work at hand. And the work at hand isn't just about our day-to-day work. It's about building our relationships so that we are truly a collaborative, professional organization. So you see there, this is our second day. And it's not just administrators. We had over 70 teachers and classified staff join our administration on the era of transparency, but also, more importantly, to increase leadership across the district. The message on that day is that to be a leader, you don't need an administrative credential. Every single person who works with our children and for our children, we are all leaders. It doesn't matter what our title is. And so that was the focus of our administration. So I'm just going to show you some pictures here. Here's our cabinet who took 5 minutes to give a snapshot of what their focus is going to be. And so our cabinet is just, they're pretty incredible people. And so they are doing some very heavy lifting, working with all of our staff and our employees on all of the initiatives of our district. We had a CSEA and our administrative assistants there. I would be remiss if I did not mention Ruth Pagano-Trun and also Sarah Drury, who really puts everything together. Mm-hmm. Without them, we would be having paper plates, bread and water, and no beautiful flowers or no comfort. And so I just have to shout that out because Ruth is sitting right here. Mm-hmm. We had every school and every department had a team. So I'm just going to flash through these pictures as you see the team members with their administration. You see every school is involved there. They did reflection pieces. They had to write. They had to talk. They had to appreciate. They had to determine, really go into some conversations about what they've experienced in the past year in terms of working together and what it might look like this coming year. How can we improve it? So all of our school teams were represented, and let me tell you, it was really, really a great day. Really a great day. And for the first time, preschool was involved. So one of our themes, of course, we're going to take our superhero theme forward, only this time the superhero theme is going to go a little bit deeper of using all of our resources to meet every single student's need. So a utility belt of a superhero has all of these different pieces of equipment to meet the needs according to the situation. For us, it's meeting the needs of our students by name, by need. And we had to do skits. That was part of our activity. So every school and department created a skit talking about what are our resources? What are the resources as superheroes for our students that we can use to help differentiate and meet the different needs of our students? So every school had to create a little scenario, and it was great. It was really great. There's no way I could have taught that better than what they presented in their skits. I'm showing a picture here because this particular team was spread out throughout the room because these are our teacher leaders in terms of lifting all of our district initiatives. These are our TOSAs and our program specialists that really help to facilitate and support the work at all of our schools and departments. Lastly, I'll talk about one of the areas of focus was about the power of positive leadership, again, under the understanding that everybody is a leader in our district, no matter what your title and no matter what we do, all of us are leaders. So today we welcomed all of our new educators on their orientation day. And that room was filled with 47 brand new hires of teachers. And so these are pretty special days. One of the things that I shared with them was this is my 35th start of school for me. And so when I look back, I actually started in 1982 in Walnut Grove School District. There was no orientation for me. There was no teacher support. Thank goodness a kindergarten teacher helped me with a classroom management plan because I didn't even know what that was, okay, in my first year teaching. But now we have really, really great support. So we have 47 new educators to Washington Unified. 27 of them are first-year teachers. And 5 of those first-year teachers are interns. In our new educator orientation days, our message is that you are never alone. And so we had all of our managers there, we had all our support staff there, and even our classified team was there to show the support and let people know they are not alone. I'm showing this because I'm biased. I will confess to all my biases. This particular gentleman is his first year teaching. He is our new music instructor for River City High School. And he has a beautiful story that will touch the lives of our students because he has walked the journey of many of our students. And I'm showing that because we've seen support from our administration, support from our staff. This is support in that picture with Christy Jordan in the parent lens and also as a River City Music Booster lens. So there is support surrounding every single employee in this district, and it's something to be very proud of. So the first day of school, again, Wednesday, August 15th, we're so excited. I'll just let the board know I'm going to be boarding a bus that morning, and I'll be riding a bus to Riverbank to greet our students, and I'll be boarding buses throughout the first month, just so that I could have that touch with our students and let them know, we're here to support you too. That starts actually at whatever time it is, 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, boarding their bus. So thank you, board, for appreciating our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources for this last minute, I guess, until the board adjourns, Michael Reed. And, for Michael, it is a big loss to our district because when I look back on these past 2.5 years, much has been accomplished. Trustee Pizzotti, you mentioned systems, you mentioned procedures and processes, and that has truly improved the effectiveness and the efficiency of our district. And in turn, then we're better able to serve our students and families. It doesn't mean that we're perfect. I mean, it's always a work in progress, but we have systems in place for another person to walk in and bring it even more to the next level. Mike has been an exemplary colleague to all of us and a mentor to many, many people that you may not know about. He mentors on the side of people calling him personally, like, hey, how would you handle this? And it may not have anything to do with HR. And that's just because he was a successful principal and a successful teacher prior to this appointment. So, Mike, we do wish you well. We wish you weren't leaving, but we know then that we know that every person in this specific moment of time has a specific purpose, and you have fulfilled your purpose here in Washington Unified and leave well. So we know that your next school district needs you, and we know that. And so your purpose and your calling there, they are better for it. So we will miss you, and thank you for your work and your service. And that's my update tonight.
Thank you. Okay, we will now move to future board agenda items. T1, budget review regarding the school resource officer's position for September 2018. Kobe Pizzotti. T2, board bylaws and board governance handbook revisions. We are now moving to, I'm sorry, is there another one?
Yeah,
I'm
there's
sorry. Thank
one
you.
that keeps falling off, the board priorities. The future agenda to adopt our actual board priorities.
Board
So I
priorities.
just want to keep on reminding that we, again, in my comments, that we should actually focus on our board priorities and name them. And I know that we worked hard on them, so just want to make sure that we adopt them publicly.
Okay, very good. Thank you. We'll add that to the next agenda.
And
Any others?
I would just say with, in terms of looking at the budget review, the budget study session where we look a little deeper as
Okay.
a team.
All right. So I'm sorry, budget study session. Okay, anything else? Okay. Believe that's all for now. Okay, thank you. All right, no reports, nothing else, great. So we will now move to adjournment. Can I get a motion? Second?
I'll second.
Everyone wants to stay.
It's
Mike,
before
it's
9
you.
o'clock. When does this happen?
All right, all in favor, aye.
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 Thank you, adjourned.